Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Be Alert News show right here on Brighteon TV. We just thank God that you're able to join us today. We have a wonderful guest today. We're going to, of course, this is Black History Month, celebrated here in America traditionally. But we have also, myself, coming to such a wonderful understanding of all of the history of America, of the United States of America, and why it is so important that we as Americans, yes, as Americans and as all ethnicities are able to understand without a shadow of a doubt that God put us on this wonderful green planet, that's right, with blue skies and blue waters, that we are all here together for a purpose and for a reason, and that there is an entity, there is an enemy that would love to have us all divided from day to day, from week to week, from month to month, and from year to year. I got a wonderful guest, and you're going to love this gentleman. My God, Kevin Jenkins. He is a man, history personified. He is entrepreneurial. He is dedicated to bearing. So not only just telling the truth, but carrying the truth. He's a truth holder. And that's what we need more of. So we're gonna do some flashbacks. We're gonna talk about history, but we're gonna talk about current and present events and how it all impacts all of us, no matter what color you are. Matter of fact, the word human comes from the word hue, which is light. All of our colors come from the light. There's only one light that I know. It's called God the Father. And so let's be right back in just a few moments.
This is an amazing company that has sponsored both of us. And this is a way to have backup communications when the grid goes down.
Well, the situation became problematic, Mike, with the New Orleans, the latest hurricane, because people panic. And this is one thing that I've learned from being associated with the satellite phone store for over a decade. People will call and order 600 phones at a time.
What?
It's like this, Mike. Anytime there is a crisis, people want these. And ladies and gentlemen, they've created such a good deal for Mike's viewers, my viewers, our combined viewers, that this is the only way you're going to be able to communicate.
And that's the other beauty about these phones, is they can't track you because it's not talking to a cell tower. It's talking to satellites, orbiting over the equator. So SAT123.com, folks.
Thanks for your support of this platform. Use the code BTV at checkout for additional savings. BrighteonStore.com.
All right, we're back. And again, we thank God for our Brighteon family. Been so faithful. Look, get the word out. Share. We're here every Monday at 10 a.m. And also you can go to our Brighteon store. You put in the discount, be alert, get all these wonderful products and just save some money. But look, get your health back, get your mind back, and let's be proactive about the end times. We just love our health ranger, Mike Adams, and all he's doing. So this is where it's at right now. as you know, relevant media, it's where it's at. And I think that's why platforms such as Brighteon is becoming so successful. But it's not successful unless we have people like Kevin Jenkins that are able to come and be with us and share some insight about what's going on, not only culturally, but what's going on politically, what's going on educationally, what's going on economically. He's a truth bearer. I keep saying that over and over again. But Kevin, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing well. You know, I was thinking while you were talking that you were one of the first people that I contacted or was in contact with when I started on this journey almost 2 years ago. So I'm sitting here watching you and I'm like, man, things have really changed. I mean, we have I remember all of the conversations we had about, you know, the world and about what was going on with COVID and what was going on in communities all around the country. And I got to tell you, I'm very honored to be on your show today. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great people. I mean, we're all connected. It was just funny, you know, sitting there in Georgia, hanging out with the frontline doctors.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
And you know, Alvita King and Angela King, those that sponsored the event, and we all just came together because we wanted to know the truth about what was going on. But more intrinsically, we wanted to know why the tactics and the strategies of being able to come to whatever it is, a group of people, as what the Democrats and the left have done is dissected, have demographically put us all in a little box, as per se. But it looks like it was working for a little while, but something has happened, Kevin, and you are at the heartbeat of what's been going on. And we're not just talking about Afrocentrically. I mean, this is not an African American thing. This is an American thing. We're in the middle of Black History Month, but I've also dedicated this as Constitutional Month. All history is important. But talk to us. What have you seen since then? Since 2020, my goodness, November 3rd, we all know what happened, but it was a whole lot of stuff being cloaked or masked. I'm using a play on words, right? A pun, right? It was masked, but we have been unmasking a lot of things, and you have been in the center of it. Talk to us.
Well, you know, after traveling the country, which was an honor to spend, you know, to go to 57 cities at that time, you know, in I think 39 states. What I learned when I was going across America is that we really are one America. You know, we all have some of the same issues. We all have some of the same dreams for our families and for our communities. And I realized as I kept talking to people where they lived at in Montana, Nebraska, Alabama, Tennessee, I mean, all over the country, I realized that we were all human beings fighting for the same thing and fighting against the same group. And we've been fighting against.
And could you give them a little background about some little credentials? Because I think people really need to understand your background. And just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Let me give you a little credentials.
So they can have a clear understanding.
Yeah, I come from the city of Newark, New Jersey. My family, we are developers. We've been in politics for over decades. Just put it to that, decades. But I grew up in a family and a community that understood the power of what community is, what community development is, what economic development is, what true political power is. And I've been given, you know, I've been blessed to be able to live in a world where I have ownership of my life, ownership of my voice, and ownership of what I own as relates to my community and how I value my community. So I have about 30 years of experience in community economic development, you know, education, public policy, government affairs. So I've done it all. I've had a great full life. And of course, I'm a Black American and proud of it. And I'm not a victim. And I am a Black American. And I'm proud when I say that because I understand the importance of being a Black American, not a man of color, not an African American, but a Black American that has a rich history here, a Black American that comes from a family of people that understood, even though we came here in the belly of a ship and we were brought across the Atlantic, even though we were slaves, we didn't live in victimhood. We transcended that coming out of the 1800s. And my family was a part of that great thought process that Black Americans can own, Black Americans can have their own faith, Black Americans can understand what community is. And we are even at the point in our lives that we attack people that look like us that's selling garbage as hope. We attack people that look like us that are attempting to tell us that victimhood is okay. we attack people like us that tell us that, listen, we should be in poverty and we should stand under this dream spell, and that we should give our power to another group and say, hey, listen, it's all right because I'm a Democrat, I'm going to be taken care of. Well, that's a lie. That's what not Marcus Garvey didn't believe that. Malcolm X didn't believe that. Martin Luther King didn't believe that. Ida B. Wells didn't believe that. Paul Robeson didn't believe that. Fannie Lou Hamer didn't believe that. They all talked about how do we become an empowered people by unleashing the power in us so we can have the standard of living, education-wise, economic development-wise, community development-wise, like everyone else, and not spend all of our time playing the victim and blaming other groups for our demise or what we did not do. So after 58 years, 58 years, 60, 58 years, you know, I look into these Black communities where my family has invested in and where we've given our blood, sweat, and tears. And I got to tell you, I have a sad report that Black Americans that look like me, not the barbarian at the gate, the barbarian inside the gate, have been tearing these cities apart, trapping these people in poverty. I'm talking about Black people that look like me. That's right now pushing the slave passport, right now pushing mandatory experimental biologics, right now saying it's a right to be a prisoner in your home. Oh, by the way, guess what? You have to take this slave passport to eat. Well, did they forget about slavery? Did they forget about apartheid? Did they forget about Nazi Germany?
Yeah.
Did they forget about communism? Did they forget about socialism? Are you kidding me? So for me, this is at a personal and spiritual level for me that, you know, I've been ordained, I believe, because I got to tell you, Brother Leon, I had no idea that I was going to be on this particular journey at this particular time in my life. And I asked my wife, I said, yeah.
And let me say something right there, because when we met, we were like in a crossroads, right? We were all trying to figure out what happened in 2020, November 3rd, what happened at the elections. I ran for Congress, of course, in 2020. Right. And then we know from the presidential ticket on down the ballot, what happened, especially in Georgia. Oh my goodness. And that's where we met. That's right. Really for the first time, right there in the the belly of hell. That's right. In Georgia right now. And you were a central figure in bringing us all into a climate of critical thinking, which has been lost, I think, for a lot of people in this country. You are a critical thinker. Tell me now, because you have this intrinsic application of how to actually do it, not just somebody threw some stuff in your, in your lap and they kind of work behind the scenes. You actually have the experience in how to develop community. Tell me, as you're going along with this, because I didn't want to really interrupt you, but I knew you was on the flow, but just tell me, now that you have this, how is God using you right now to just plunge into the belly of hell, so to speak, to get people back in right alignment, back into critical thinking again?
Well, a lot of people ask me that question, but when I started the Urban Global Health Alliance with my partners, I know how to write institutional science, right? So in building this institution and becoming the CEO of it, I realized what I was doing, that I was building an institution with institutional science, right? With a person that understands how to message to communities about where they need to be in the future. So we were in a crisis mode last year. All last year, we were in a crisis mode, pushing back, trying to tell everybody what the narrative was. And I realized that all my life I've been doing that. When it came to housing development, I was right there in the forefront of not just talking about the lack of housing, but how do we build adequate housing for the middle class and for the poor, right? I knew that we needed to do that. When it came to really serious health issues in our community, I helped to put a team together to save a hospital and did a hospital acquisition in the city of Newark that now provides health care. I couldn't believe that after I did all that work in these acquisitions, that the hospitals are presently working against us, right? So what I started doing was taking all of that history that my parents taught me about Black American history, about African history, about the globe, about economic development, about global economics. I was brought up in a house that told me that this is what the world looks like. This is how you operate in it. And guess what? When you don't want to operate in it, this is how you build a new world for yourself. This is what I started realizing, that even though we were trapped in this narrative of, fighting back, we needed to come up with a strategy on how does the world look better for us in the future. Break away from the tyranny, Look at our food distribution. Look at how we build new communities. Look at how we build new schools. And that's my focus this year, to be on the offensive, to talk about how we got here, to talk about how we should show each other love, to talk about how we move past and find our God consciousness so we can find our God courage, and to make sure we break out of this zombie state of mind that we have with these parties that might not subscribe to the ideology of the freedom that we believe in. See, I believe in total freedom. I don't believe in a quarter of it, a half of it. You know, I believe that my body, my mind, my spirit, my soul is free because God gave me the inalienable rights to be free. And I understand the seriousness of that, being a descendant of slaves. I think when I say that, when I say I'm a descendant of slaves, people say, wow, because I want people to understand that my journey and my family's journey and your journey didn't start out as slaves. When we came to this country, I understand what happened to this guy. I deeply understand it because I was raised to understand it. And I had a grandmother named Lily Mae Jenkins that made sure I understood it. But she said, now that you know that, now that you understand the history, now that you have breathed the air of freedom, what are you going to do to build a better world for your community? I think that was the challenge of my wife, who comes from a very prominent family, development family. We've learned how to do that. And that's our mission now. Our mission is to fight the tyranny, continue to fight the tyranny, because tyranny never stops, but also to build a new world for our children, because this year should be about the year of protecting the child. And I think that if we protect the child, we protect the future. If we protect the future, we protect, you know, because I think about it, with no child, there's no son. No child, there's no life. No child, there's no rebirthing of humanity. So what they're attempting to do to our children is not only criminal, it's ungodly. Yes. You know, and I think that's the problem, Brother Leon, is that we've lost our God consciousness. And when you lose your God consciousness, you lose your ability to see God's face. And when you lose your ability to see God's face, you lose your God courage. And I'm telling you, I think what's happening now, people are starting to find their God courage. And it makes me proud, because I see a lot of young men and women now waking up. I see a lot of men standing in the gap for their women, because remember, when I started on this journey, it was to give support to women that were fighting against Big Pharma, that was being demonized by Big Pharma. And I'm like, wait a minute. These women should not be demonized by an industry that's indemnified from being sued if they damage their child. That's un-American. Yes. You can't take my child and do what you want to do with it. That's my child. That body is my body, not your body. And I think what we've done, Brother Leon, is that we've given our power to the evil forces for decades. And now what they're attempting to do is pull the trigger. Okay, I think we got them to sleep. Oh, you know what? I don't think they're paying attention, but they didn't know. But they didn't know that God always had that group of conscious people in the world that were going to fight back against the tyranny of our time. When I was in Washington the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of days prior to my speech. And I don't like to say I give speeches. I like to have conversations with people. I think people are tired of speech.
What were you there for? Because I know there was a lot of rallies, because I was there for the March for Life, and then there was...
Right, you were there for the March for Life. That's right. Well, I was invited to speak at the Stop the Mandate rally down Washington. And I got to tell you, I didn't think people really understood the importance of speaking at the monument. Like that was holy ground for freedom. That was holy ground for civil rights. That was holy ground for any group that has ever fought for their freedom. But what I realized, though, that Martin Luther King 58 years ago stood on those very steps and was talking about the same thing we were talking about: body autonomy, freedom to think, freedom to live, freedom to earn. He was standing up there saying, I'm here because I'm Black American. I'm here because I'm an American, but I'm here because I'm a human being. And if we come together with the power of we, as opposed to the power of they, we win. And I was thinking about Martin Luther King when I was walking up the steps, and I had a tear come down my eye. And I was like, what is that about? And like, what? But I felt the presence of him, because I realized over the last 20 years, we've destroyed his image. We've destroyed his voice. We've bastardized him. I mean, this man is not an Instagram post. This man is not a tweet. This man is not a Facebook post. He was a human being that heard the call of God. And it just got to me. It shook me to my core, because I realized that my message had to be a message of hope, a message of love, a message of unification, a message about how we're all Americans, because I tell groups all around the country that this is not about race. This is not about class. This is about a group of people that want power control over us. This is about a group of people that believe they want to be our God. This is about a group of people that want to write the DNA of our faith. So it is in my blood, it's in my DNA to fight against tyranny. Because
let me say, history is really repeating itself. The Grecan ideology, Rome, Greece, has re-entered into our community. We got to do a whole private teaching on the ideology of Greece, of Rome. The whole thing of who should be in charge. If you had a certain feature, if you didn't have the pointy nose and you better hear me, if you didn't have the blue eyes and the blonde hair. And I'm not being racist by saying this. I'm saying there was an ideology in history that said if you didn't come up a certain way, you were not of the class to reign or rule. And some of that ideology has crept in. It's Trojan, by the way. It has come into our institutions, and this type of, it wasn't theocratic, by the way, neither. This was very, when we talk about colonization, how if I don't want to destroy people, I have to change their history. If I don't want to destroy them, I have to change how they think, how they feel, how they look towards one another, and that type of ideology is Trojan. And so while you were talking about King and on those steps historically, I believe you are part of the taking apart, the dismantling of some of these ideologies that have crept over from the East into the West, and they don't like people like you.
Well,
they don't like people like us.
They don't like people like us. I mean, well, Brother Leon, they are now qualifying us because we believe in faith, family, and freedom, and that we're not buying the victim narrative, and we're not selling garbage as hope, and we're not selling fear, and we're telling people to wake up and connect back to what's, God, to connect back to something greater than themselves. You know what they're calling us now, you and I? White supremacists.
Wow.
I mean, just think about this for half of a second. That they now want to rewrite the narrative of race in this country to fit their narrative of bondage, their narrative of slavery. They don't want us to call this slavery. They don't want us to say this is bigotry 103. They don't want us to say this is segregation 103. They don't want us to say that. They want to say, oh, this has nothing to do with racism. This has nothing to do with slavery. This has nothing to do with communism, socialism, authoritarianism. This has nothing to do with it. We're just trying to get you to stay safe. And by the way, we're going to take everything from you, and we're going to break the backs of your local economy, break the backs of your children and families. But guess what? It's okay, because you guys are used to being slaves anyway. Didn't you notice? You've been slaves all along. And what they did not understand, that there were a group of people on the planet for this moment, for this time, for this second, that was going to take that deep breath and inhale God and exhale fear, and they were going to go to battle for what God gave us. I believe what God is doing now is absolutely hilarious. The whole spirit of this is hilarious. And I laugh because I'm saying to myself, how in the heck did I leave my dining room table with a glass of wine, right? Because that's how it happened. I was literally sitting home saying to my wife, you mean to tell me I did all of this work all my life, and this is what it boils down to? I said, I should be ashamed of myself for what I've done. This is what I was saying. I said, I am ashamed of what I've done. And here's a young man walking in my door named Jamel Holly, an assemblyman, say, Kevin, we have a problem. And I was like, what is the problem? I said, it's a problem. I don't want to deal with no more of my people's problems. I'm done. I want to go play golf. I don't want to do anything. And he starts telling me this, Brother Leon. And I was like this. I was like, oh, my God, you mean to tell me they're taking people's religious exemptions to protect their body autonomy? That's slavery. Are you telling me they're telling you right now that they're going to take your medical freedoms away from you? Well, that's slavery. Are you telling me that black legislators in Trenton, New Jersey, at the legislature are voting to take the rights of people's rights away from them? That's what we call those people modern day slave catchers. I say, wait a minute, I got to read this. And so I started reading it with him. And I was like, oh, man, this is serious. He said, I want you to help me. I said, I ain't nothing to figure out. If 10,000 parents in strollers and 0 below degrees is in Trenton saying, you're taking my rights away from me. You stand with those parents. And that's what he did. He stood with those parents. He stood up for them. And then he got me to start paying more attention to it. And then going to a meeting in Connecticut, listening to Bobby Kennedy, we talked briefly. And then I talked to other people. I said, look, I can't help you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build an institution to effectively do the work that I believe is necessary to integrate what you know into other communities that don't know it. And I've been on that mission since then.
Well, look, we got about a minute before we go into our second half. We're going to come back. Kevin, I want you said you would stay, so I can't let you go now. But we're gonna dig deeper dive into the Constitution and why all of us are together in the Constitution, and that we're not discounted as Black Americans. I like the way you say Black Americans. I'm not African American. That I got some friends who are African who would really be insulted right now to say that they're a color of this. But understand, to say Black America, we're talking about the residual understanding that God doesn't make mistakes. And we're going to talk about this. There is no mistakes in God. If you are born a certain way, no matter how high, how tall, how wide, how short, your color has nothing to do with where God is about to take you in this season. You got to know something. We'll be right back.
This is an amazing company that has sponsored both of us. And this is a way to have backup communications when the grid goes down.
Well, the situation became problematic, Mike, with the New Orleans, the latest hurricane, because people panic. And this is one thing that I've learned from being associated with the satellite phone store for over a decade. People will call and order 600 phones at a time.
What?
It's like this, Mike. Anytime there is a crisis, people want these. And ladies and gentlemen, they've created such a good deal for Mike's viewers, my viewers, our combined viewers, that this is the only way you're going to be able to communicate.
And that's the other beauty about these phones, is they can't track you because it's not talking to a cell tower. It's talking to satellites, orbiting over the equator. So SAT123.com, folks.
Thanks for your support of this platform. Use the code BTV at checkout for additional savings. BrighteonStore.com.
All right, we're back. And I know some of you all, look, go get the word out. Kevin stayed. He's right here on the second half with us. And again, thank all of our Brighteon sponsors. Those Mike Adams, Health Ranger, we just appreciate everything that this platform is doing for many, many, many people right now. Relevant media is so important right now, getting the truth out. And again, we've been with Kevin and Kevin Jenkins, a entrepreneur, economic development educator, and I love the term critical thinker. We have to bring that back into the community. And when you have time to think, guess what? you have time to solve. when you're always busy, running around, busy, no time to sit, we call it time freedom. We studied Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. We're going to be talking a lot about that, because in Constitution, our founding fathers knew that they had, in constitutional thinking, that they had to form another company outside of what was already created for them. And sure enough, our founding fathers incorporated. Yes, they did. They came together to form the United States of America, ratified in 1789. And there have been those proponents who say we want to take down that corporation. We want to take it down, and we'll do anything. We'll do anything to get them to be divided. We'll come in as a Trojan horse and start teaching ideologies like communism, socialism, Marxism, racism. We'll come in humanism. We'll come in postmodernism, New Age. We'll get rid of the Christianity. We'll get rid of the Judean principles. We'll get rid of all of that, because we want that corporation that the founding fathers put together. And if we can buy it, but no, they didn't want to negotiate for it. They just wanted to steal it. Okay, take it right from under our noses without us even really realizing what's going on. But guess what? They were using us to do it, to take down our own corporation. I got Kevin here, and he's been talking about the things he's done and what he's doing right now, solutions, not just fighting against the tyranny, not just saying what's wrong. I mean, we hear that all day long, but actually putting together, hallelujah, I'm getting happy right now, solutions to situations, critical thinking, time to think, time freedom. That's what it's all about. Kevin, tell me, what are some of the things that we're putting together? Because our Constitution afforded us that what? All men are created equal and given these inalienable rights from God, not government, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You know, that really means ownership of property, by the way. The solutions that have to happen to our communities, especially in our inner city, and even going out even to the country, somebody's been trying to steal our incorporation, our incorporate thought of how we should all be working together. Tell me about the solutions.
Well, you know, one of the things that we realized a year and a half ago was that, you know what, it's all right to talk about all of these things that because we're in the middle of a crisis. But what do we do moving forward? How do we break away from the system of tyranny that we've invested in? Because we all have invested in this tyranny. We all gave them power over us, our government power over us, churches that don't believe in Christ over us, you know, our clubs. We've given all of these people power over our voices, and that's why we didn't own our voice. We didn't even own our voices. When we really think about it, we didn't even have ownership of it. So what we started doing last year was looking at what companies we need to create right now to build out for the future. So the first company we created was Freedom Travel Alliance. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's probably one of the most phenomenal new companies that are being formed in what I call a distressed marketplace, because we realized what they were going to do to us, that they were going to stop us from traveling. And that's a form of slavery. That's why Black Americans, we had to create the Green Book so we could travel safely throughout the country, so we can get to our loved ones, but also sleep safely, get gas, eat food, go to the bath. We didn't have that option. Remember this now, just 50 some odd years ago, 60 some odd years ago, we didn't have that option. So we said, listen, we need to create our own new Green Book. So we created Freedom Travel Alliance. We've done 6 inaugural flights from all around the world. We have a staff of, I call it the greatest global network of employees and consultants that we hired as soon as we received money. Because when we launched it, guess what happened? Everybody in the world came to it and invested in it and became members. You have to become a member of Freedom Travel Alliance. We just had our flight from Canada to Mexico just yesterday, as a matter of fact. Yeah, yesterday. So that company is growing. The second company we're building out right now, we're looking at property in Florida and all around the country, because what we're going to be doing is, because of my housing development experience and economic development experience, we're going to be building all new housing for freedom-loving people, so we can start building our own communities of like-minded people with the right principles, with the right morals. We don't want to live with people that don't believe in God. We don't want to live in a community that says we cannot be free to live and not be bothered by the government that's already abandoned us. So that's the second leg of what we're doing. The third leg of what we're doing, I started beta testing food distribution all around the country. And one of my friends, Trent Luce, who lives in Nebraska, who's one of my heroes, I love him. We started saying, listen, all of your ranchers, all of the ranchers in America, the ones that are capable of doing this, are they capable of distributing food around the country, in particular urban marketplaces that are going to supermarkets right now and being gouged? And just like white Americans are going to supermarkets and being gouged, can we start our own meat distribution throughout the country? So we're scientifically working on that right now about, okay, tractor trailer in northern New Jersey, northern part of America, tractor trailer in the southern part, tractor trailer in the west part. Okay, how do we get that to people so they can go buy food that's high quality, right, from ranchers that are doing the work of feeding us all around the world? And how do we partner with them in doing other aspects of growing our food and distributing our food? The fourth thing we're doing is we're building it out now, an online university into tutorial company that are now going to start to tutoring kids in American history, tutoring kids in penmanship, tutoring kids in math and science, tutoring kids about what family means, we're going back to basics.
Yes.
And so that's the solution-driven part of our company, because we have so many companies moving, developing at one time. But the main impetus of it was when we created Urban Global Health Alliance, we knew we were going to translate that into doing the for-profit stuff that we need to do to sustain the nonprofit, but also to start to change the hearts and minds of people to understand that they can take back their lives.
Yeah, see, these are principles that you are just putting out there, basic principles that our founding fathers understood. Right. If we don't incorporate something outside of the rule of England, we'll always be slave. Think about that. We'll be slave unto a principle that we can no longer thrive in. We'll be slave to a principle that we can no longer survive in. They can just, anytime they want to, just come and just subtract us, devalue us, make us like we never existed. Like this was going on globally right now. You can go into a community and just say, we want to get rid of 20,000 of them. Okay, let's go in that community. We got these ignorant, demonstrous, these are monsters right now that are determining we can go into Africa and get rid of 80 million people. We can go, America has 350, million or 300. Let's see, these ignorant monsters, wicked, evil, leftists, these type of thinkers who have time to sit and think. See, they got time to sit and think. Let's see if we can get rid of 350 million. Let's see if we can get rid of 300 million. Let's just see if we can just get, and they have time to think. And so what you are saying is that we have time to think too.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? Because, but Leon, people don't understand about I'm an insider. So I know how they operate. I know who funds them. I know who's managing their portfolios. I know who they're all connected to. I know them all. So people always say to me, Kevin, why don't they attack you? I said, it's pretty interesting that they don't, but they put me on a disinformation 12 list, which I thought was hilarious because I don't really spend a lot of time on social media because I'm traveling so much. And I'm not trying to promote all of this. What I'm trying to do is save humanity and work with people that are trying to save humanity. But, God provides for you and God rewards courage. So, my life hasn't been hard whatsoever. But what I've told my friends and all of the people that I've met, my new tribe, see, I have a new tribe now, and you're a part of my new tribe. Anybody that lives in fear is not a part of my tribe. Anybody that doesn't believe in God is not a part of my tribe. Anybody that doesn't believe in family and faith and freedom is not a part of my tribe. If you are confused about that, you're not a part of my tribe. Because
all of this coming together, and I have to say, I'm running for Congress. Hunter has this clip. I want to get your thoughts, because if we don't pull this thing together and begin to incorporate again, build new systems, because inside of this system of tyranny, it doesn't allow for us critical thinkers, people who love time, freedom and liberty to accomplish anything. We will eventually be, again, vaporized. We will be as Satan's employment because he's an unemployed cherub, but he tries to employ himself, steal, kill, and destroy. He doesn't really is not employed by God anymore, who created him. So he tries to employ his own organization and structure, and we call that tyranny. But play this clip right here. If you have it, Hunter, just put it on there, of what we are looking at from a perspective politically, and why we have to get people to begin to think again what decisions that has to be done. If you have that clip, Hunter, go ahead and just put it on there right now if you have it.
When I was a kid, most black families had 3 paintings hanging up in their living room: Jesus Christ, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and John F. Kennedy. That's how I was raised. And for the longest time, I believed that the Democrat Party was for the people. Unfortunately, that isn't true anymore, because everything the Democrats now support is the complete opposite of what these men stood for. My name is Leon Benjamin, and I'm running for Congress in Virginia's 4th Congressional District as a Republican, since my values don't align with Democrats anymore. Like JFK, I believe in freedom, fiscal responsibility, and independence from government. Today's Democrats want us to believe we need government to survive. They promise us health and safety, free education, and justice for all. But in return, we receive higher taxes, medical tyranny, and justice for only those who comply with their agenda. This is not the intended future JFK had for America. Just like JFK, Dr. King believed in the Constitution and the freedom it ensures every American. How did we go from his wonderful unifying vision to our children being taught divisive critical race theory? This is not the dream Dr. King envisioned. I will fight against CRT and advocate for school choice, because parents should be in charge of deciding what school is best for their child's needs, not the government. As a bishop and a man of God, nothing disturbs me more than the left trying to replace Jesus with the government. We worship God, not government. Here in Virginia, Patrick Henry famously said, "Give me liberty or give me death." That includes religious liberty. No government can take away our constitutional and God-given right to religious freedom. That's why I'm proud to say that I've written over 17,000 religious exemptions to protect Americans' freedom of choice. As a husband, father, Navy combat veteran, and bishop, I can no longer sit back and allow this great country to be divided. We must get back to the true message great leaders like Dr. King and JFK fought for, and restore our faith in God, not government. I'm Leon Benjamin, and I approve this message.
All right.
That was powerful.
Kevin.
That was powerful. How you converged all of it. You know, how you converged the history to now. You know, and you know what I loved about the piece? That it was authentic and it was not laced with flowery bullcrap. Like, you talked about medical tyranny. You know, you talked about the things that people are thinking about in this country right now. And let me tell you why you're spot on. I'm going to give you an inside scoop. Because I've traveled so much and because I've talked to so many people, I've actually done a living poll of America. I'm in a very unique position, and I realize that because of the traveling I've done, that I've gotten a real perspective of what people think. Regular folk, hardworking Americans, Black, white, Latino, Jewish, Asian. I'm telling you, you are spot on, because that's what they want. They want candor, they want truth, and they want honesty. And they are all, let me tell you something about the Democratic Party, the radical left, because that Democratic Party, the thing that confuses me about Black Americans when it comes to the Democratic Party, the Democrats have never passed any legislation that have effectively done anything for Black Americans since the inception of our love affair. They think that the civil rights movement, it was stopped and halted as soon as they agreed with Lyndon B. Johnson. I tell people all the time, the deal we cut with Lyndon B. Johnson just destroyed our momentum as a group of people. We became slaves to the Democratic Party. We became slaves to the government. We cut a deal to be politicians at that time as opposed to being owners. Now imagine if we were owners now and you were running for office. with the principles you're running with, no one would care if you're a Republican or Democrat. They were like, we want this man to lead us because he believes in faith, family, and freedom. He believes in the country, and he knows that he's Black American, and he knows what his role is and his responsibility is to the community. So if you echo that every time you go somewhere, people respond to that. People react to that. People want to talk to you. Because every time I got on the stage, I said, I want everybody to raise their hand. They raise their hand sometimes. I do it occasionally. I want everybody in this audience to know you're racist. And they're like, wait a minute, we're not. I said, yeah, you are, because we're still using the same language that they taught us to use against each other. Why don't we just say, Brother Leon, not a Black American, Brother Leon American, that what is standing up for his community, standing up for his country, standing up for his family, standing up for his children, and standing up against tyranny. Why can't we just say that? You know what? Because we're all racist. We continue to use their language. They only created this language to separate us and destroy our faith in each other. And now is the time that we can actually change that by just shaming the devil and telling the truth.
Yeah, one of the things that in our Constitution, that there were pastors that said, okay, we have to break away from England. We have to break away from this tyranny. Where are the churches? And just be honest, don't sugarcoat this. In your travel, what happened to the church? And no matter what culture, ethnicity, what happened to the church?
I can tell you right now. They have abandoned God. 85% of the churches in this country have abandoned God. They closed up their churches and zoomed in Jesus. And as soon as their churches open, they open up their churches to take the devil's money. And a lot of us are running back into those churches seeking salvation. That's not going to work for you. The institution of the church is corrupt. But your faith is not. Your faith in God is not. You have to go and connect with God again and start to talk to God about how can they use us, or any of us, or groups or individuals, as instruments to spread the good word again. Those churches are not the places to find the good word, the gospel. They're not. Now, I'll tell you the reason I know that is because I grew up in the church. I grew up in the mosque. I grew up in a religious and spiritual community. I understand what my faith is to God. And I really started realizing decades ago that the institution of the church is not where we need to be. Not at all. We need to be building church within us that connects to you. Then we expand on that, and then we're really now in unison with the Spirit of God. What's happening now, those churches have abandoned God. And that's what I tell people. I said, listen, you could go back to them. If they closed down and didn't come back in a defiant way, and they closed down and shut their doors, and now they're opening back up, talking about it's a COVID clinic, they work for the devil. They work for the devil. They don't work for God.
Well, let me tell you something. Jesus said it early on. Early on, he says, many shall come in my name and say, I am Christ. One of the things we're putting together right now is what is called Apostolic Network Starter Kits. And if they want more information about that, they can text the word fivefold, FIVEFOLD, to the number 94253. The reason why, I'm going to say it again, you can text the word fivefold, FIVEFOLD, to the number 94253. The reason why we have to do these new apostolic networks, I believe, is because of exactly what you have said. Our churches have been infiltrated demonically with doctrines of devils and causing the people to do things that are contrary to the faith. And Jesus even told his early disciples that this would happen. Go ahead, Kevin. We got a couple more minutes. Go ahead, man.
One of the things we have to do is just think about this for a second. I want everybody to ask their church pastors, did they take money from the federal government during the COVID pandemic, Did you take money? If they took money, they work for the devil. I'm sorry. Not going into those churches. I'm not interested in having a conversation, because what they've done to us by not opening up their churches so we can pray and so we can seek God's face for the right answers, where we can build community, was criminal. And I think majority of those churches need to close their doors. And now you have Collins from the NIH. Now that he's moved on, his story is coming out that he was paying churches, right, to push the fake or the fake COVID narrative to not just their parishioners, but to other Christians around the world and other Christians in their community. That is evil. that we need to ask every church we go to, unless you have subscribed to the ideology of death and fear, did you take money from the government or NIH or any institution or any health institution to augment your budgets? Because I know a lot of black churches in this country, they abandon their communities. 85% of the black churches in America took money from the government to lie to their people. That is anti-Christ, that is anti-black, that is anti-human, that is anti-white, it's anti-everything. And we need to not.
And they pushed and then turned into vaccination clinics. They pushed the vaccine.
But I want to spend a half of a second on this Black history piece.
You got 10 seconds.
Okay, a lot of people have been talking to me about Black history. This is not Black history, what you're seeing on TV. This is not Black history, what you're seeing marketing. Carter G. Woodson be rolling over his grave. He created Black History Month and the Black History discussion to give Black Americans a barometer, some sort of understanding of who they were, not as slaves, but as nation builders, not just slaves, but they were creators, not the slave that they were doctors, not the slave, they were creators. And he was trying to break us away from the slave narrative that the only thing we had was on our back, and the only thing we had was what this country gave us, when in fact, we helped to augment this country and evolve this country. And that's where I'm at. I want to talk about that one day with you.
We're going to build on this again. Creators, not just slaves. Creators, builders, not just Black history is about creation.
Right.
It's about creation. God bless you all. We got to go. See you next Monday.